Alright, so today we are servicing two tanks in one house. We got this tank over here, which is more of a predator style tank. And then over in the corner we have a little corner bow front tank. So the predatory tank has got the Niger trigger right there. It's got a couple clownfish, and then it's got an eel in the back. It also has a sharp nosed puffer around here somewhere. You can see the yellow tang. Where's the sharp nosed puffer? Where'd you go? Oh, you can see the sharp nosed puffer hiding down there. So those are the three main predatory style fish that are in this tank. We've been slowly introducing coral. You can see some leather here, another leather mushroom there. This is a current light that's on this system, so it doesn't grow coral extremely well. The current light just isn't strong enough. So whatever coral we put, we have to put up to the very top, but even then they still don't do well. So we're gonna hopefully change the light out so we can put some more coral in here. Obviously coral that the Niger trigger hopefully won't mess with, although they're pretty good with coral. Out of all the triggers, they're pretty decent. And then obviously the sharp nosed puffer, we have to watch out for him in the coral as well. So the glass has got some algae on it in the back. Sand needs to be tidied up a bit. We're gonna test the nitrates and phosphates in this tank just because it is a predatory tank and these guys do eat a bit, and there's an eel in here, so there's a good amount of waste in this tank. So we'll test the tank for nitrate and phosphate, and we'll see what we're looking at. So now filtration, which really helps this tank do so well, given that it's a predatory tank and there's a lot of food that goes in this tank and it's well fed, the eel and the trigger and the puffer, is we have this big old, I believe this is a 600 Red Sea skimmer, which really does a good job of pulling out those excess nutrients. And then it's just a simple, drips right in there in the filter floss, which I like this much better than filter socks. It drips right there in the filter floss. Change that out. But, nothing too crazy, just a small sump, and main source of filtration is this protein skimmer, which is definitely oversized for this tank. But the nitrates and phosphates are incredibly low in this tank, and as you can see, we got some nice coralline algae growth and no hair algae at all. Some really nice coralline algae growth up top, closer to the light. So yeah, I mean it's definitely doing pretty good. And we come over to the Reef Tank, and this just started a couple months ago, so it's still going through its cycle. You can tell you got some dinoflagellates right here, that brown slimy stuff that's coming off, but I got the whites on right now so I can clean the tank. We got an anemone that's doing really well. Both anemones are doing great. Toadstools rocking out. That one started with one piece and broke off, now it's two. And then we have a hammer coral in the back there that's doing really good. I got some pulsing xenia. And all the fish in this tank are doing great. Our main problem right now is dinoflagellates, which is, I just tested the nitrates. Let's go outside and see what those read. So the nitrates on the Reef Tank, they look good. This is right where you want them. So they're definitely there, but we still have a little bit of dinoflagellates. It's probably because the tank is still a little new and still needs a little bit more time. So I'm going to use this small little piece of hose to siphon out all the dinos that are in this tank into this bucket, and we'll do a slight water change on this. Nothing too crazy, probably about 15% water change, because we want to increase the nutrients in this tank a bit. And we'll siphon out all this dino all through here, get as much as we can off. You can see the coralline algae starting to grow really well, so that's a good sign too. Now for the filtration for the Reef Tank, we have an eShops protein skimmer, which as you can see, it's pulling a good amount of nastiness out of there. We'll go ahead and take that out and clean it. It's bubbling pretty good, but it's pulling pretty good, so that's a good sign. Then we just have back in here is where the filter sock is, so we'll go ahead and change that out. We change that out every service. You can see it's pretty nasty in there, and then you can see there's some floss also, so we put some floss in the filter sock too, just to extend the life of the filter sock. And that's pretty much it when it comes to filtration. We're really relying on the rock and the coral to do most of the filtration. And then there's your return pump. And over here is another compartment which we could put a light going above that, and we could do a refugium in there, but I think it's a little too soon for that. I think that's something down the road as the nutrients kind of get up a little bit and we get rid of the dino flagellates. Once we get rid of the dinos, then we'll consider a refugium, but I definitely think a refugium's a good addition to this. And then right in between here, we can put some more sponge material to help filter out the water a little bit before it goes back into the tank. We have this Duncan Coral, little three-headed Duncan Coral that we're going to add to the tank today. I think it'll make a nice addition and should do well. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that up using this BSI glue, which I love. I think it's a great product. It works really, really well. It cures really, really fast, and it's got a good stronghold. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the tank. And the eel has made an appearance. He gets kind of bullied by the Niger. So what we did was, because the customers don't really get to see the eel because it's behind this rock work a lot, and then because when it's feeding time, the Niger trigger does kind of go after it because they're competing for the food. They wanted me to put this pipe in here, so hopefully the eel can go through here and pop its head out here occasionally, and they can just get a better look. But it's also providing a little bit of cover from the Niger trigger. And maybe down the road we can put some rock over it or something, make it look a little bit more natural. But right now this is the experiment to get them to come out a little bit more so the customer can see it, and also to provide some protection from the Niger trigger, and let the eel eat in peace and not be bullied too much. But for the most part, everybody gets along in this tank. All right, we're all finished up here. Put the light back on timer. Everybody's chill. Tank looks good. And then over here, I'll go ahead and put this light back on timer too in a second. But we still got some debris in the water. You can see it's a little bit cloudy and stuff from the cleaning and the water change. Anemones are pulled in a little bit, but this one's already starting to come out. Same thing with the toadstools, those will come out. And here's the new coral, the new Duncan Coral. You can see the pops are already starting to come out, so that's a good sign. And I siphoned the rocks off the best I could, but the dinos will just come back. We really got to change the water chemistry in this tank, which means, upping the nitrates and getting it more fed. So I'm going to dose some amino acids in here, help the coral and the anemones, and hopefully we can get some more of that coralline algae growth, which looks awesome. The light that we have on here is, let me lift this up, is just an aqualumination Hydra. And it's doing really well for this tank. This is one of the tanks that was used. The customer bought it from someone we knew, and we set it up, we aquascaped it and everything. 2 power heads, so there's a good amount of flow. So yeah, everything looks pretty good, so we'll hopefully beat this dino relatively soon, and I'll give you guys an update later on. And that's it for today. I'm going to go ahead and fill up the fresh water for him, and I'll be on my way to the next job.